Okay, so that's 25 too, so I think we'll make a start. But if people arrive, we'll just welcome those as they come in and they can join in as needed. So huge welcome and thanks for coming today to the launch of the XR Future Democracy Hub. It's been a long time brewing and we're very excited to be here today to launch it this evening. So this session is going to be, I'm just going to give you an overview in a moment. We'll do some introductions, so you'll go into breakout rooms and just say a little bit about who you are and why you're here. We'll introduce the aims of the hub, then give you a tour of the initial offerings just to get things started. There'll be a question session, so you can ask any questions that are on top at that particular stage. And then we're going to do a short demonstration deliberative session. It will very much be a demonstration rather than an actual full session, but you'll get a taste of what the kind of deliberation session feels like. And then we're going to finish off with just getting started session and any related questions about actually just signing up and getting going and starting to make this work. So in terms of questions, we're going to use Slido, and I'm going to post in the chat the link to that now, so you can all pick that up. There is a direct link if you want to do it on your desktop, but if you want to use your mobile, there's the direct link to the mobile site. You just put in sli.do and then enter that code D513. The advantage of doing it on your mobile is that when we're doing the demonstrations, you won't be able to access your desktop because it kind of takes it over. But if you're on your mobile, you can still type away. But we will give you some time before we do the questions to review and submit questions. So the idea with Slido is that you submit a question and everybody can see it and they can upvote it, and the ones that get upvoted the most we pick off first. That's the basic way it works. So we ask you to ask questions via that platform and not via the chat, because we won't be looking at the chat in the first instance to look at questions. Just in terms of practicalities of using the Zoom platform, there are two views. You can use a speaker view, which means that whoever's speaking, me at the moment, will be in vision, or you can use gallery view where you can see everybody, but you might not have the person speaking right in front of you, so you have to go and find them. Okay, I think that covers most of the practicalities there. Before we go into introductions, I'm just going to say a little bit about why we're here, why we've developed the Future Democracy Hub. I think many people would agree that democracy is in something of a crisis, but the good news is that many, if not all, solutions already exist, but they're simply just not widespread in the culture. So we're looking to embed new democratic tools into the DNA of society and increase the cultural collective decision-making capability, particularly around increasing participation. So with a lot of democratic processes at the moment, there's very limited participation. We want to really make that available to everybody who wants to take part. And if we want to build new, more robust and effective forms of democracy, we can't just bring a system down. We've got to build up the new replacement, as Buckminster Fuller always said. So we can make the existing system obsolete by creating something which is better. And we're really kind of in the game of mastering the craft of democracy collectively and as individuals. So the main method that we're going to be employing via the hub is to build this army of facilitators. So when I speak a little bit more about what we're offering, what we're supporting, it's very much with a view to supporting those people who are going to be there at the coalface, delivering sessions, making democracy happen on the ground. And because we believe we can talk about democracy, but the only way we're going to do it is to actually do it, and then it become a reality. Okay, so that's a little bit in terms of the overall intent. My name's Paul. I'm the coordinator of the Future Democracy Circle in XR. I'm co-hosting this with Indra from The Alternative, who you should be able to see on the screen if you scroll along, and Andy Pace, who's another democracy veteran. And just to say a couple of other people who've been integrally involved in getting this going. Sam Weller, who is the person behind all of the electronic stuff, all the website and the tools we'll be using. So a massive vote of thanks to Sam for all the work you've put in. And we've got Will from the Democracy team and Tony here as well today. Welcome to you. And we've also got quite a few of the tool providers. So we've got a few people from TalkShop, Bob and Perry. From Empathy Circles, we've got Edwin, and I think Carolina's around as well. I think I saw you earlier. Welcome to you. People's Assemblies, I'm not sure I've seen anybody from People's Assemblies, but they may be here. Hello to you if you are. Citizens Actions Networks is also Indra's area, so she'll talk about that a bit later. And again, I don't know if there's anybody from the Citizens Assembly working group in XR, but oh yes, Kathy's here from there, so welcome to you. And we've got Peter McFadden, who you probably all know is another democracy expert from Froome, who created Flatpak Democracy, so welcome to you. Peter's been working with us over the last few months as well. Okay, so I'm going to shut up for a minute, and I'm going to allocate you a breakout room each. So you'll be in threes. Just say a little about who you are. You'll get a minute each about that, and I'll give you a minute warning before you'll end up being dumped back in the main room. When we did that in the rehearsal, you got a minute's notice. We didn't get 15 seconds, so I really apologise for cutting you off there. Hopefully you had a chance to get round most, if not all of you. You will get another chance to break out when we do the deliberative session. And I think the way it works is you generally go back into the same group. So hopefully that will work for you. So welcome to anybody who's arrived since we went off to breakout rooms. Big hello to you. The next thing we're going to do is go into an introduction to the Future Democracy Hub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off, and then I'm going to bring in Indra at various parts. But this is the bit where we're going to go into a sharing screen. So in a moment you're going to be seeing the front page of the Future Democracy Hub, and the way it works is that you just need to click on that. Is I think it kind of takes over your computer. So again, if you want to use the chat area, sorry, you can use the chat area, but we're going to be using Slido for the questions, and you can pick that up in the chat if you haven't seen it already. And you can do that on desktop when this finishes, or on your mobile phone as we go along. So already gave you a little bit of introduction in terms of what we're trying to achieve, and this is the front page of the Future Democracy Hub, and a few sentences there just underlining what the purpose is. We're very much about getting democracy into the DNA of the culture and providing the resources for people to actually go off and do it. The next thing you can see there are some videos. So I'm not going to show these, but basically you can watch those, and they'll flick along to introduce the reasons why deliberation is so important.
Hello again, it's Paul here from the Citizens.
Talking there, and that one there is about deliberation approaches from simple to advanced. Okay, so that just does an introduction to what the whole of the hub is trying to do. And next week I'm going to hand over to Indra, but before that, just introduce the underlying principles of all of the tools and what we're trying to do in terms of deliberative democracy. The three pillars: radical inclusivity, active listening, and trust in the process, in ourselves, and in other people. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Indra, and for that I just need to stop sharing, and then she'll pick up sharing for this little bit, and then she'll hand it back. So just bear with us while we just swap over. So over to you, Indra.
Hi everybody, and I'm just going to go back to the same place that Paul was, and pushing on the button that says go deeper. So if you look here, you'll see that what we're offering really is an explanation of why we feel we need a Future Democracy Hub at all. To start with, as Paul already mentioned, we want to embed these new elements into the DNA of our democracy. So the idea of radical inclusivity, I suppose at the moment we're very aware of that with the Brexit dilemma that's going on, that so much of it is about the excluded people not having a say or not having any kind of input into democracy and feeling powerless. So radical inclusivity is particularly aimed for in our communities, that whatever we do as Extinction Rebellion, we're trying to reach as many people as we can to be involved in the process of change. And to do that, we have to build trust between people. And the first steps to that are to do with active listening and building what we call a relational culture. And on this hub, what you've got is many links to understanding each of those pieces of the culture better. And all of this that you'll see here on this...
Just hold Command and press plus just to make it a bit bigger and easier to read. If you hold Command and press plus a couple of times, it should make everything a bit bigger.
It doesn't work for me, I'm afraid.
Okay, never mind.
I'm doing that.
Or a touchpad.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Carry on. Sorry.
I'm sorry about that. Is it too... Well, the problem is I can see it very large in my screen, so... Anyway, I'll power on, but I'll just explain to you that all of this is on the hub. More or less everything that we've put there so far. It's just the beginning points for us all together to explore, not only the new culture, but the reasons for the state that we're in at the moment. So just scrolling down now, we're looking at an overview of why is Extinction Rebellion necessary at all? Many people will be asking, why is it that our political system, as we currently have it, cannot deliver the solutions that we need to fight the climate crisis? And there are reasons for that, which we go into on this hub. I invite you all to look at them and suggest how we can expand that so that more and more people can understand that the climate emergency is as much an issue of a democracy deficit as anything else. So just going down, the current pace of reform obviously is too slow, so disruption is necessary. And what Paul mentioned before about a radically different democracy is already available, if you like, is really when we understand that only 2% of people are members of political parties, and that the current system really is focused too much on a very small discourse that is served by the media, and not enough people have any access at all, and there are no mechanisms for them to participate in the political situation. So again, inviting you all to think about why our democracy is in the state that it's in. The bigger picture as well is looking at the difference between hard power, the outcomes and actions of force, and the relationship to soft power, everything that we do through storytelling and the power of attraction. So I'm not going to go into any more detail about this. I'd rather hand back, if you like, to the going back now to the toolbox that we've created for the Future Democracy Hub. So just to introduce this democracy toolbox, you'll see that we've assembled a few here that together would make up quite a selection of tools that we can use in our community. It's very important to think about having the broadest possible range of people taking part in the activities of Extinction Rebellion, but remembering that not everybody is ready to enter at the same speed. People will have many, many different speeds of entry, and I think we're going to go through at least a few of them now, and I'm going to hand back to Paul to start that process.
Thanks, Indra. Just bear with us 2 seconds, and I'll just go back into the share and just continue where Indra finished. So I'm going to come back to this middle section afterwards, but we're just going to go through these tools. So just a very brief guided tour of the individual tools. I'll just go through a few aspects of each one just to give you a quick introduction. TalkShop is the first one in the list. Again, these are very straightforward to pick up and run. An easy to use deliberative process in groups of 6 with input via card packs. For every one of these tools, you can click on it and you'll get access to a very simple video of how to do it. And then the next thing is a link to the landing page on their website. And in the case of TalkShop, that lands you on a welcome page to their site. And there's some instructions there about how you can get more involved. And they've got all of these resources ready to use. So you can see the length that you need to use to actually do the deliberation is listed in the second column with the introduction about what the topic is about in the first column. So in some cases, the shorter versions, you can actually download them straight away. So if you click on download the citizens income conversation, you actually get a link to a document you can print out. You can cut those cards up and you can actually do the exercise. And those small packs take about 45 minutes to half an hour to do. There's all those other packs as well, which take a little bit longer, but you can run them in small groups with just around people around the kitchen table or at work over the lunch hour, or you can run a larger session with a few more people. And for those ones, you can link to TalkShop and they will send you those packs through, or they will negotiate how best to do that. Okay, so lots of things you can look at on their site. So that's the first offering. Just going back to the hub, the next one is Empathy Circles. So Edwin from Empathy Circles is here today. So this is a powerful method for practicing listening and experiencing empathy in a small group setting. So again, there's another video there they've created, 9 minutes long, gives you an introduction. But if you click briefly on their resources pack, you get another landing page and a whole host of information about how to run an empathy circle, what they are, offers of where you can go and do them. There's a short video and a longer video to explain how to do them. And further down, after some more descriptions and testimonials, there's links to other resources, but also there's facilitator training. So if you look on that, you can see that if you want to spend a few hours going through this, it's mostly, I think it's all online, so you can download those sessions, listen to the videos, and learn how to run that process in detail. They'll also be available to support you as needed. And the next one, Indra is going to introduce, which is People's Assemblies.
Yeah, so People's Assemblies are probably the thing that most people are familiar with and seems to be the frontline tool for extinction rebellions. And the beauty of People's Assemblies is that they can happen anywhere for groups of, from anything from 6 to 8 people to 100 people. You can quickly assemble and organize people to be able to express their thoughts and opinions on just about any topic that you raise. So People's Assemblies happen on bridges, they happen in town squares, they can also happen in a very organized way in town halls. And there's a People's Assemblies manual available, beautifully written and explained, and can be very much the front line of democracy, beginning in just about any community.
Brilliant. Thanks, Indra. So very much one of the XR flagship offerings there. The next one is Thinking Box. So this is a deliberative process which is based around video content, and you do small group and plenary discussions around discussion questions. So there's another video about how it works, and then if you quickly have a look at their resources, there are a whole series of programs already developed. The first 5 there are specifically for people within XR, we thought quite useful. And then there's another 3 which could be used for anybody in the public. And just going into one of those, this second one is Exploring Sortition, which is the random selection process for citizens' assemblies, and the dangers of prejudging people. So there's 2 halves. The first half is on the sortition question. And you can see here you get some facilitator guidelines. There's the discussion questions you can download and then put on the screen for when people are having the conversations. And then if you scroll further down, the program is actually listed there. You can actually just run it from the website or download the videos and run it on your computer. So generally with the sessions, there's a little introduction video to get people thinking, and then how a session works. So you don't even have to tell people how the session works. It's all there ready for you. There's the feature presentation from Brett Henning from the Sortition Foundation. It's a quite well-watched TED Talk. And then there's some discussion questions. So there's another video here, which if you click on it, the discussion questions will appear. If you just pause it, you can make it big screen and leave that for people to look at, and then they can have a conversation about those questions. And then at the end, sometimes on these sessions, there's a possibility to actually fill in a survey so you can see what the people in the whole of the room thought collectively, and then even if other groups have run it, you can see what they came up with as well. Okay, so, and then the second half is another very provocative and inspiring TED Talk. If you haven't seen that one, I recommend it, The Danger of a Single Story, and that explores, the judgments that we often have around people around the world. Okay, so just going back, there's all the programs, you can explore those, and Thinking Box also have some facilitator training, so you can click on that and watch some videos about how to run a session and get familiar with that. Okay, so that's Thinking Box, and I'm going to hand back over now to Indra, and she's going to talk about Citizens Action Networks.
Yes, thank you. So Citizens Action Networks count as one of the more complex, longer-term tools on offer. Unfortunately, there's no handbook yet, because it's still in the Alternative UK. We're still in the business of creating the prototypes. They're all at different stages of building in many different parts of the UK. But just broadly, the aim of a Citizens Action Network is exactly as it sounds, is to build networks for the citizens below the current political radar and below the political divisions that exist currently.
Hi, I'm Indra Adnan from the Alternative UK.
Sorry.
Oh, there's me. And there is a process. It begins with a very deliberate and conscious gathering of citizens across the whole of a community through a process known as deep hanging out. We start by really trying very hard to bring in every kind of person from across the community into a space that we call the collaboratory. The collaboratory itself is a three-stage process, which begins with bringing people together in a friendly way, just helping them to meet each other, to build bonds of trust. We also fuel these spaces really with the arts and, if you like, a very visceral, good feeling of bringing us all into some sort of emotional readiness to do work together. The second stage is called the inquiry, where we invite those people who are in the friendly to think about the future, that they would like to build together. So rather than being a space in which people are just solving problems, they're coming together to think about the future for their community and how they might connect themselves to the solutions that are available. And the third piece of the process is called the action, which is where we begin to build actual citizen action networks. The whole idea is to be able to find alternative ways of citizens to come into relationship with each other and to be connected to the new system, if you like, of solutions that already exist. It's quite a radical response to the current political process, because it doesn't imply at the beginning any of the political parties at all. However, from a Citizens Action Network, it's quite likely that you will see people rising as independents and using the kind of politics that flat pack democracy has pioneered to slowly become more influential in the political system and perhaps take it over eventually. So I think that's enough about Citizens Action Networks, but as I say, there's no handbook for that yet. It's very much in the process of being prototyped, but we welcome you to take part either in your communities or on this website to help us develop that idea.
Brilliant, thanks Indra. When I first found out about that when we were talking in Marble Arch, I was so interested in the depth of it, because a lot of the stuff that we've all been challenging ourselves to do is to reach out to those people seldom consulted, and that's one of the main fundamentals of what we've got to try and overcome. How do we include those people that are not normally included? So the last offering is one that I'm sure you're all already very familiar with, and that's citizens' assemblies. And this is an advanced and comprehensive deliberative process, typically lasting days or weeks, and typically professionally run. Participants are random selected representative cross-section of the population. There's a video, as with all of these tools. We're going to look at that one a bit later. And if you click on the resources for the citizens' assemblies, you go to the very extensive resources page on the Extinction Rebellion website, all about citizens' assemblies. So there's a guide you can download or print. There's talks going on around the country about citizens' assemblies, and lots of different resources available there to get involved. So obviously it's something of a flagship process for those national and international decision-making realms, and something that's being worked on extensively. One of the challenges we have in XR is promoting these and saying where they're best used. And one of the things that's really important is, whichever your situation is, as I'm sure many of you know, is to select the appropriate tool. And citizen assemblies are really only really workable if they're properly funded, they're done completely independently, and generally at a national level, sometimes at a local level, but again, that's not something that's always workable. What was happening is that a lot of people are saying they're running citizens' assemblies at local levels, but what they're doing is not citizens' assemblies at all. So it's really important to understand the difference between those and, say, a people's assembly. Okay, so that's the guided tour of the tools. Very briefly, I've got one more bit to do, and then we're going to go over to questions. It's this section here in the middle, which is entitled This Month, but this is really the action part of the website. So these areas, the first one is the discussion platform. So at the end of this webinar, you'll have a chance to join this one if you haven't already, but hopefully you can see what that looks like. It's on Lumio. And Lumio is great in terms of just a discussion platform, but it also has a lot of deliberative tools embedded into it. So a very brief tour of this, but as you'd expect, there's lots of different conversations already in there. There's a welcome section. One of the things we say at the very beginning is that we are obviously encouraging and expecting people to interact in a respectful manner at all times, and to follow the XR principles and values which are provided there. Obviously, if we just expect that to happen, and if you don't, then we do have the capacity to boot you out, as it were. There's topics already started, but as soon as people get engaged, they can add their own topics and do anything that they feel is important to talk about. We're very much trying to encourage that focus on action, and so a lot of attention will be on supporting people who are actually delivering sessions, or want to deliver sessions, or want to tell people about how they did a session, and share any advice and tips. So there's one thing there is a deliberative democracy session log. So if you've run a session, you can just report back there. There's a polis exploration there. You can have a go of polis if you're familiar with that. One thing I can come on to later is the conversation of the month, and you can suggest topics via that one. There's already threads that have been started by members. This thread here is where you can join the facilitator army. I'll give you a chance to do that at the end. And if you go into one of these areas, you can see that the tools become available. So if you do want to create a poll or any democratic decision-making voting system, you have to do it within a thread. So you only see those when you go into a thread. Okay, so that's the discussion platform. The next thing we're offering is some regular trainings. So you can see that the current box there has this workshop in it, and the next one we're running is a talk shop training webinar next Thursday, so you're all welcome to come and take part in that one. And other ones will be going in there. Many of them will be online, but some will be face-to-face as well. If you want to offer a training, then let us know and we'll support you in doing that. And then the final offering is something called the Conversation of the Month. And what is it? It's basically a ready-made discussion that you can just download and use. It has the 3 basic stages of any deliberative discussion: some input, some content to introduce the topic, provides the information to stimulate the discussion, a deliberation process in which to carry out the discussion, and then the final phase is the integration phase, where you're sharing and sometimes gathering results and opinions post-discussion. And you can see that each of those phases needs to be worked on and developed over time so we get better and better at each one of those with lots of potential. It's just an offering, so it's ultimately over time people will create their own topics and run those, but this is just to help people get started. And we realize because of the timing, we're very close to the October Rebellion. It's very unlikely that there'll be many people running sessions in their communities at this stage. So what we've done with this one, I'm afraid you've got me again there. This is a little video I did at the end of the last Rebellion on XR messaging questions and criticisms. So we thought it was quite a good one to show people before the next Rebellion, and they can even just look at that on their own. So you can watch the video and then fill in a little survey to say what you thought about the questions that it raised and your views on it. Now, if you did want to run the session, then it's all there in the full session resource with the feature video in there and some nice little ones around it as well to keep the punters happy. Okay, and that is pretty much it. So we've given you a full tour. I don't think there's anything that I've missed. So what I'm going to do now is stop sharing. So you should all now be able to see everybody again. And I'm going to remind you that we're now going to take questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repost the Slido link. If anybody's arrived late, they won't see that in the chat. So I'll just post that again now. And if you can see that, so you go to that first direct link and you'll be able to see the chat, the place to submit a question if you have any questions, and you can also vote on the questions that other people have submitted. So what happens over time, I've not looked at it yet, some of you may have already submitted questions. The ones that are most popular will come to the top, and they're the ones that we'll answer. So we'll do that for 15 minutes. You can do it on your mobile phone by going to that sli.do and entering the code D513. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, between us, we'll try and answer some of your questions. And I'm just bringing it up and just rearranging my screen so I can see everything. Just bear with me. Okay, so first one is not a question, but a huge amount of work, great work you've done. Congrats and thanks. So how lovely. Thank you. Thanks for that. So the next highest voted question is, I'm going to tick the ones that we've done. So next one is, how do we get to add our tools to the Future Democracy Hub? So basically the answer to that question is just get in touch with us. You can see the kind of tools that are already on offer. The idea is that people can just look at them and pick up and make them run and make them work in their own communities. So you can see that some of them have got trainings online that they can then just, if you've got a little bit of initiative and application, you can actually try and get it going. Obviously, the more complex they become, the more support you might need, but it's all about scaling that offering. So anybody who can do that and has the ability to create that resource, let us know and we'll weave you in. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. I'm just going to scroll along so I can see Indra and Andy. Basically, guys, if you want to come in and jump in and answer any of these questions, just unmute and then. The next question is, how do we spread the word about this amazing tool nationwide? So we're going to be running regular sessions, so people can join those. And the best way, I guess, is ultimately to go out there and run sessions in your community. Go to your local community groups, churches, schools, colleges, clubs, your workplace, and just do a lunchtime session or an evening session and run it. I guess the other ways are social media, and obviously centrally we'll try and do as much promotion as we can. But maybe that's one of the threads we can start on the forum, on the discussion platform, and people can add their ideas. So hopefully that's answered that one. We're going to carry on doing this for probably another 10 minutes. Indra, do you want to come in?
Unmute. Yeah, I just thought I'd respond to a couple of the questions which talked about or asked about visions for the future of democracy, and to say that this is very much a platform for exploring that. Some specific questions, for example, where does the liquid democracy sit within this picture? I think that everything has a place in the picture. This is sort of what we're trying to bring into the hub, how all these different things meet each other and become a more complex set of offerings to people. But certainly there is a lot of emphasis on the need to build relationship at community level. So face-to-face, a lot of these tools are about how to build face-to-face relationship and building trust between people, so that we don't have any longer the situation that we have now with Brexit, where because of the division that is sort of created by the political parties and the media that supports that political discourse, can be repaired by people coming into relationship with each other. So while the tech part of it will be to build on the trust that is being built between people at community level, and not be a thing in its own right. It's part of a system, not the whole system.
Thanks, Indra. Again, thanks for your kind comments, everybody. The next question on the list is, it is often useful for facilitators to be seen as independent. If volunteering as facilitators, how should we position ourselves regarding XR? So what I would say on that one, we've made it clear from the beginning, is that we're not an exclusive to XR offering. We're very much about bringing anybody who's doing democracy together, and I mean, as many people are already doing, they're trying to bring people who are doing this together to help work together, and then just learn from each other. So anybody can do this at all, whether they're in XR or not. But one of the things about XR, which is definitely a help, is that there's a lot of traction and there's a lot of momentum. So there's a lot of people coming through who want to help out, and one of the things that we hopefully be able to do is to support them in helping this movement grow of deliberative democracy facilitators. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. Next highest one is, many of these processes require in-person participation. How can we be inclusive of people with physical disabilities and or those who live in rural settings? So great question. I guess that's a universal challenge across the board, isn't it, in terms of reaching out to people who are seldom included. I don't have any other answers other than what you typically hear in terms of trying to make venues as accessible as possible. And one of the great things about this is that things like with TalkShop is that you don't even need to have a massive group. You can download it and run it in your own house. You can get a few people around the table. Even with something like Thinking Box, you can watch the TV in the front room and then have a conversation. The other thing that occurs to me is that a lot of these things could be online. There's obviously people who can do that and can't do that as well, but that might make it a little bit more accessible. Okay, but again, another conversation to put onto the discussion platform to get ideas. Just a few more. How do we connect local communities to the national bigger picture. Indra, do you want to have a go at this one?
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry
this
to put
is
you on the spot.
definitely, yeah. And if anybody wants to contribute here, maybe put your hand up. But it's an ongoing challenge for localism to be seen as something relevant to the high levels. And the way that we see it is that even at the local level, you can be connected to municipal and even global levels solutions in the local community, that in a sense there isn't anything that that stops a local community having access to the other levels. However, the process of making localism and maybe even municipalism relevant to power is maybe a longer process or a shorter process, depending on what happens literally in the next couple of months. If we have an election that causes, the need for a change in the political system, meaning a change in the usual binary system where there's only two main parties, might fall into more coalitions of progressives versus coalitions of people on the right-hand side. And might even cause a shift from what we have now as a system of first past the post into something that's more proportional. As soon as there is a more proportional system, which could happen at any time, then you'll suddenly have a plethora of new parties, including people coming from the independents, rising to the national level. So we're really in a very fluid system right now. For the time being, we're recommending that you really study what happened with flat pack democracy. And I know Peter McFadden's here. To show how it's possible for people from a citizens action network to take control of their local council, and then in fact in the last elections that happened at district level as well. So it's a slowly encroaching move upwards, but it could shift very quickly.
Thanks, Indra. So just to try and whiz through a few more of these and then we'll go on to the deliberative session. Next one here, so is what have the discussions been within XR for a plan for replacing politicians in Parliament with citizens selected by lottery? So the Citizens Assembly Working Group are working extensively with pushing the Citizens Assembly at national level. So there's a 3 demands bill going through. There's a lot of working within the current system to influence and raise awareness about citizens' assemblies. And a lot of that, I'm going to probably finish this one quite quickly, is to do with gaining the critical mass. So it all goes hand in hand with what XR are trying to do. So if the critical mass of the movement is established, then of course you've got a lot more leverage for influencing the change that many people are looking for.
Just to chip in there, Paul, there's Brett Hennig of the Sortition Foundation. He's done a lot of work on the idea of a second chamber that would be selected by randomly selecting citizens. And if you Google Brett Hennig second chamber sortition, there's a lot of information on that, and perhaps at some point we could invite him in for a webinar to have a discussion on that point.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. So I'm going to take just one more. Can we encourage people to try to make attractive, funny, moving memes, video, pictures, songs, performances that communicate their democratic passions? So a suggestion, I think, yeah, one that we'll all fully support. Maybe people can do that and then submit them onto the discussion platform, and we can work together to create the best ones. So there are a few more there. So what we'll do is we'll look at those and then maybe post those on the forum as well, and we can look at those going forward. Okay, so many thanks for that. The next thing we're going to do is a very brief demo deliberative session. Okay, so I'm sure you've all done things similar to this before. Maybe not, but maybe some of you have. What this is going to look like is a short video, and then we're going to go back into breakout groups and just discuss the video, and then we'll come back into the main group, and there'll be a very quick kind of integration exercise, and then we'll go on to final aspects. So the main question we're going to be asking you to discuss is just very simple open question of what your initial thoughts and feelings are about citizens' assemblies, because that's the topic of this video. So I'm just going to go into share mode again, and you'll be all watching this 6-minute video, I think it is, and then we'll go into breakout groups. So I just need to press the right button. And you should now, that's the Slido. So if I just go back to the Future Democracy Hub, because what we're going to watch is the Citizens Assembly video, which you can get to via the hub by clicking that and then clicking that.
We are calling for the creation of a National Assembly
to vote on our way out of the...
People done? Great, I'll just wait a couple more seconds just to make sure. Okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks for improvising there, guys. So what we're going to do now is just go into breakout groups. You'll be in 3 people, groups of 3. There may be 1 pair, but mostly groups of 3. And you're just going to discuss for probably about 10 minutes, no more than that, your initial thoughts and feelings about citizens' assemblies or what you just watched. So quite an open question there. So like I said before, you'll go into a breakout room, you'll all be unmuted, so you'll be able to talk and see each other if you're on video. And if you've got any problems, come back to the main room and I'll be here to support you. Okay, so welcome back everybody. Hope that was enough time to at least have a conversation about a little bit of that. We had a little conversation here with the people who dropped out and covered that ground a little bit. So the final part of this process is to just do a quick integration process, and what that's going to look like is a very simple Google form that I'm going to post in the chat and you can fill in, and then we can have a look at the shared results. So I'm talking and doing something else at the same time by copying this link. So in the chat area in a second is going to appear a Google form link, and if you click on that, it's just a very simple form with about 6 statements about citizens' assemblies, and you can say whether you strongly agree all the way up to strongly disagree, down to strongly disagree, and then there's one question at the end: is there anything that you think is a negative aspect of having citizens' assembly as the 3rd demand? So if you click on that and fill it in, and then hopefully in 3 minutes you'll be done, unless you write a whole paragraph in the last question.
I didn't get any link.
I didn't see a link.
Oh, beg your pardon. I posted it to just one person. This is what Zoom. There we go. There you go. What happened is that somebody sent me a private message and it sent me just back to them, automatically defaults to them. So you should see that now in the chat. Click on that. And then once you've all filled it in, I can quickly show you how everybody voted. So again, it's just a demonstration exercise, but I'll be quiet so you can concentrate on the form. Okay, so we're up to 36. I think in the interest of time, apologies if you are still finishing. We've got most people's results in. I'll just very quickly share the screen. And so you should be able to see that now. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but the first question you can see mostly agree or strongly agree in terms of it's unable to respond to long-term crises. with citizen assemblies, participants can think independently. Few more in the middle there. CAs support better collective decision making, deliver wiser answers. You can see the range there. Few in the middle, but mostly strongly agree or strongly agree. Slightly more in the middle on this one. The people will more likely accept radical policy changes if they have been decided by non-politicians. Formation, setup and execution of CAs is fully transparent to all is a major plus. One of you disagrees with that. CAs are tried and tested over the world is a major plus. Again, you can see a similar distribution there. And I don't know, randomly just pick the third one down there. No accountability and does not involve the whole population is one counter argument. So what I'll do is I'll compile all those and stick them onto the platform, and you can reflect on those going forward. All right, so we're in the last 10 minutes now, and this last section is basically just about getting started. So essentially what we've been trying to promote from the very beginning is if democracy is going to be improved, then it is only by doing it that things will actually change. And the hub hopefully is a kind of a starter kit for anybody who wants to give that a try. And I really do think we've got a massive opportunity here to build this democracy element of the movement. And as with all movements, they need to be public. So as I say, with people thinking about joining XR, I say join straight away, because as the quicker you get more momentum, the more people will join, and that's the way critical mass is gained. So it's really great to get the support out there that's needed, and the community that we're building, which you're now a part of, will create together the support that you need. So one carrot is who's going to be the first to record a session completed in the session log on Lumio. And I don't know, maybe somebody tomorrow will have run a session, and that will be the first one. Okay, so the last bit is we're going to stick around and support you if you need it to do one of a few things. So you can sign up to Lumio, and what I'll do is I'll just post in the chat that first link. So that's the first one that's coming, and you should see that now. And it's very straightforward. You just have to fill in a very brief form for Lumio, email address and name. What we do ask is if you can put your full names on there. It just makes it a little bit easier to understand who's saying what. And then you'll be directly into the Lumio Future Democracy Hub platform. The other thing, actually also a thread on that discussion platform, is the opportunity to sign up to be a part of the facilitator army. And so that's the next link I'm going to post in the chat. And what that also provides is an opportunity to help facilitate at the October Rebellion. So that might be the first thing you want to help out. If you come into the Rebellion in October, what we're looking to do is to be able to facilitate sessions with all of the rebels, and that's what we did in the April Rebellion. And we might even be looking to do some rather larger sessions as well, where a lot of people can take part. So if you're interested in helping out there, let us know, and we'll work to facilitate that. And then just it's up to you really where you want to go next. Get involved on Lumio. There is a thread on the Lumio to suggest future conversation of the month topics. So which topics do you most want to discuss? And a lot of the tool providers are keen to find out the answer to those questions so they can get providing resources, and quite often they'll develop those for us and we can just get off and use them. So let us know in there. You have to suggest something and then other people will vote on it. And then there's the Polis demo as well. Have a look around there and add stuff of your own. So just jump in and get started. So that's about it. What we're going to do now is open up the chat area. So if you can see the chat, you can post anything and you can make that big, big screen so everybody can see what's being said. If there are any final questions about how to get started, post them in the chat and we might pick up on ones we can answer straight away. But other than that, just want to say a huge thank you for coming along today. It's really exciting what we could do together. So let's all get involved and see where it takes us, and how much more can the world need it than right now. So I think that's clear to everybody. So thank you and good night. And if you've got any questions, just post them in the chat and we'll do our best. And sign up to Lumio, please, and let's get those conversations going.
Can we give you a round of applause?
Maybe it's good to you can unmute to say goodbye.
Yeah, you can all unmute now and say hello. Yeah, no, huge thank yous to everybody who's been involved from the beginning, Indra and Sam particularly, and the guys who've come along and helped with the resources, all the tool providers. It's been amazing. I've been chomping at the bit to help XR doing what they're doing. It's been a huge honor to be involved in that. So it's just the beginning though, right? Let's see if we can make it work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you all. Bye.